Welcome back to another episode of RNT Fitness Radio. On today's episode, I'm joined by fellow RNT coach Nathan, and we start by discussing his initial experiences of becoming a full-time nomad and his recent exploration into journaling. I also picked up journaling recently when I was in Thailand, and after seeing the benefits of this style of writing, I encouraged Nathan to do the same when he started his own travels. His insights into journaling and the methods he's been using to improve his writing will be interesting for many of you who are looking to also improve their writing and have been struggling with it in the past. We then dive into discussing our triphasic approach to body transformations and why you might need to start your transformation by cleaning the palate. We also touch on the art of buffering around social occasions and why you need to have precursors in place to make habit building and stacking as simple and automatic as possible. This one's a great episode for those of you looking for long-term strategies to get into shape and then maintain it for life. I hope you enjoy it. We're the 17th of January as of today. So what have you done so far this year?
I've done Amsterdam on New Year's Day, then flew to Vienna on the 4th, did 4 days in Vienna, I've done 3 or 4 days in Salzburg, and now Bergen and Oslo.
Okay. And then you've got
we've got Spain. We're going to do Spain for a couple of weeks, which is Madrid, then Bilbao, and then Seville.
Okay, that starts from when?
Next week.
Okay, so you're coming home to London tomorrow. You'll be here for 3 days, and then you're going to Madrid, Seville, and Valencia.
Yep. Seville, Bilbao.
Sorry, Bilbao. Yeah, Bilbao's meant to have amazing food.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be really nice because it's next to San Sebastian, because that's where everyone goes. God's country, apparently. Spanish God country.
Yeah. The steaks are going to be unreal in that place. So yeah, you're going to enjoy that. Mine's not been as exotic as that. But yeah, how are you finding traveling overall?
Yeah, it's actually really good. I'm lucky enough to do it, and I understand like now it's a case of why I'm so lucky enough to do it, because you can have full control over my day. I've never had full control ever. You know, whether it's you've got a 6 a.m., you've got a 7 a.m. client, whatever, you've got something in the diary saying that you have to go there. Whereas actually there's nothing forced about my day at all. I'll eat, I'll poo, I'll drink whenever I want. You know, there's not anything. Yeah, if I want to go to the gym at 11 a.m., I'll go to the gym. So yeah, it's much more about what I want from the day rather than what the day's given me. And but it's a different story altogether.
But at the same time, while you've got all the freedom, are you still creating structure in your traveling schedule?
Oh yeah, I'm creating the perfect setup for me.
Yeah. So what is it? Talk me through it.
So I wake up at 6. I'll start work between 6:15 and 6:30. I'll write I'll write one topic, an article on the topic, which will normally take me 30 to an hour and a half, depending on the topic. And then at that same time, I'll be eating breakfast if I'm at a place with an all-inclusive breakfast. And then from 8:30 till about 10, I'll clear my inbox. And then from 10, I'll train for an hour, or I'll go out into the town. Either one. If I've got a gym on site, I'll train and get out of the way. If I'm going to a gym, I'll leave it into the afternoon when it's dead. And then from 11 till 4, I'll go and travel the city that I'm in, and go and do whatever sightseeing, various different things. But I'll never go and use the metro. I'll always walk. So I basically just go on a walking tour of the city from myself. And then from 4 till 6, I'll clear my inbox again and get on with work. And then from 6 till... I'll go and eat a delicacy. That's definitely a dead sure. I'll go and eat some delicacies from the country. And then from 7:30 till 9, I've got a little like pre-evening routine now. And then I'll do all the catching up with the girlfriend, catch up with friends, and then go to bed.
What's the evening routine then?
It's called 3:30s. Classic. I made this one up myself. So I can't keep concentration for more than 30 minutes, and I know it, and I just can't do it. Even if it's writing and stuff like that, I'll have to have a break. So I just kind of accepted it and was like, right, I want to do some things that are going to contribute to what I want to do. And the things that I've always wanted to do is learn the language. Give back to myself various different things, whether it is like clear thoughts, etc., like that. So I'll do 30 minutes of journaling, which I started yesterday, which is amazing, which I know we're going to talk about. I do 30 minutes of Duolingo, which is obviously a language app, and then 30 minutes of reading a book, which the three things that in my whole entire life I've struggled with. So I'm doing things basically that I've always struggled with, because it's all about doing the hard stuff, not the easy stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about each one. So, which language are you learning to begin with?
Well, I basically just started Duolingo. We're doing Spanish.
Okay.
So
perfect timing.
Yeah. So that's what I thought. I thought, give it a good run for the next 3 weeks. Pick up a little bit. Try a little cheeky little bit when you're at the restaurant having the steak, and then carry it on from there. Because most of South America, various different places are Spanish, and why not? So yeah, that's definitely that reason.
Okay. And what book are you reading?
Shantaram.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's you're gonna enjoy that when you go to Mumbai.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's giving me a context of how messed up Mumbai is.
So I haven't actually read it, but I've heard so much about it. But when I was in Mumbai, when I was with my family, they kept explaining that, this reference to that, this reference to that. It's on my list of things to read, but you're gonna love it.
Yeah, that was a good recommendation from a client, and that she was like, "You're gonna love that," and obviously because you're going to India, yeah, it's crazy. But the book is so screwed.
In what sense?
Just all the poverty-stricken, all the crime and all various different parts. Because the guy who basically writes the book is a criminal escaping, has escaped jail. So he's going into India where basically he goes into obviously the millions and millions of populations and can hide in between them because there's so many people, and he gets to learn about the culture and the population and stuff like that, which is exactly what I want to do, which is cool.
Amazing. Yeah, that's good. And then the third one is journaling. So you started that yesterday. So that's something I told you about a month ago, and you were like, "Nah, I don't write."
Yeah.
So what made you do it? Because I didn't know you were going to start.
Because my initial reaction is to say no to journaling, because I know I will avoid things that I probably should do rather than I actually do. So when we were talking about the whole me writing articles and me doing all that type of stuff, it took me a long time to just accept that I need to get good at things that I don't like, or I know that I need to do, but we'll kind of avoid it at all costs. Whereas now I just schedule it in my day and do it first thing in the morning because I suck at it, so therefore it goes first in my day. And it's the same with the journaling. Not so much. I was like, how the hell am I going to remember where I've been, what I've done, the food I've ate? How am I going to be able to tell people or recommendations, because I've got a brain like a sieve. So it was more so the journaling my diary and where I've been, what I've ate, where I've trained, or what city I really liked, what I didn't like, and then I remembered you said it, and a few other people have said that it's great for just talking within yourself and making decisions and having that kind of relationship with yourself. And as I was writing about the Bergen and Oslo experience, I just went off into a tangent and I went off into my thoughts and feelings about the trip itself, and then it spread off into whether it was relationship stuff, whether it was family stuff, whether it was the stuff about me not doing things that I don't like versus doing things that I like. So it got deep very quickly, and then I was 3 pages of A4 deep. And I had to stop myself because I was like, I probably could fill this whole book because I've been waiting to do this for such a long time. And it felt a good way to express myself, because I always feel like I need someone to talk to, whereas actually with journaling, you have yourself.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I'm glad you started. And the experiences you had are exactly how I felt when I was doing it in Thailand, because I only started about 6 weeks ago now. So I've always enjoyed writing, but it's always been for work or writing about fitness and then life sometimes. But I've never written for myself, where there's no one to there's no judgment, there's no one reading it. It's literally just you and your thoughts. And I thought I kept hearing about, you should journal. But, I just thought it was one of those wacky things that people talk about, in their morning routines. And, you hear about all these elaborate morning routines, which take 3 hours to do. And journaling's always in there along with meditation, right? It's like journaling and then you meditate, or the other way around. And then I thought, okay, and then someone gave it to me for Christmas. And then I thought, early Christmas presents. I thought, let me try it before I go to Thailand. So I took it with me to Thailand when I was away for 2.5 weeks, of which the first 8 days were alone. And that's when I started it. And exactly what you just said there. I was, writing down things I did, what food I've eaten. But then it started becoming more than that. It was like, okay, how am I feeling right now? What do I think about this experience? What do I want to do next year? How have I reviewed this year? And then you find yourself writing a paragraph on one thing. And the next thing you know, by the time you get to the end of the paragraph, you're talking about something completely different to what you started the paragraph with. And in normal writing sense, if you're doing an article, that's completely wrong, right? It's just, it doesn't really flow well at all. But when it's your own writing, it doesn't matter, which I thought the beauty of it is, because when I'm doing articles, I'm always trying to make sure that it flows perfectly and, it makes coherent sense, and, you can follow it through a chronological or a sensible order. Whereas with this, you can just do whatever you like, right? And it's there's a sense of freedom there that you get from this expression that I think is quite liberating.
Do you read your stuff back? Because I never read my stuff back. I got the feeling of already felt satisfied by even just getting it on the paper. Like I didn't read it back. I just, as I was going through it, I was reliving what I was saying. But then I didn't go back to the top of the page and was like, oh, let me read this to see if it makes sense.
No, I never did that.
Because that's the whole thing, isn't it? It's wrong in normal writing, but when it's yourself, it's rather the process rather than what's actually written on the page.
Yeah, and just letting it all out, per se. So I think the first entry I did was, I think it was after the meetup. So it was quite a cool way to do it. We did it after the meetup at the end of November. And I just wrote about what I thought about the meetup, how it made me feel, how successful it went, and then it ended up reflecting on the year. And then a couple of days later, I went to Thailand, and that's when I started it properly. And I remember writing like 3 pages on the plane there, just as soon as I got on the plane, just because I was like, what do I expect from the trip? What am I looking forward to? And it's all like, it's kind of wacky because this is the stuff that always goes on in your head, but you never have a place to put it out there. And sometimes the best way to get it out of your head and stop like mulling over the same thing over and over is just to let it out onto paper. And like, for example, even with business, like if there's like a stressful like problem, like, something we need to solve, rather than, I can easily just let it mull in my head and go into a state of overthinking. But if I can just get like into flow state with my pen and paper, then I feel so much better about it. And I find if I don't do it now, then I find myself in that state of overthinking, and it's not a nice place to be sometimes. No,
and I never truly understood religion, right? I don't know, you don't know where I'm going with this one, but right, I never truly understood religion. But like having my mum who goes to church regularly and being there when I was a kid, and they used to con the term, give it all over to God, or give it all away. And it's just, and it could be not the same principle, but in relationship, it is quite a similar thing. Whether you're giving it to that pen and paper, or you're, whether you believe in God or not, you're also taking your thoughts, you're taking your feelings, you're taking your emotions, and actually taking them out and giving them to someone else or giving them away to kind of, release yourself of all that, anguish and overthinking and stuff. So whether it relates to religion, I do think there is a place on where you find that people that go to church generally are much more calmer individuals, and, various different things like that. But
yeah, potentially. But that's a rabbit hole that we probably don't want to be talking about. No. But yeah, with regards to journaling, how are you going to keep it in the evenings, like you just said?
Yeah, I think so, because I think mornings, I want to reflect on the day and then reflect on my emotions. Whereas in the morning, I'm just like, I need to get up and go.
Yeah, for sure. How are you finding the writing of the articles in the morning? Because I know, again, there's another roadblock for you, and it's taken me like a year to convince you to do it. But now and what I've noticed is, because you've sending me quite a few recently, and what I'm noticing is each one is getting better. And while I said to you, it doesn't need to be the perfect like finish, because I'll edit it. It's already coming in a much more edited state than it used to. If that makes sense. Like before, I pretty much had to rewrite the whole thing. Whereas now I look at it and I think, okay, this doesn't need much work. It just needs me to like put it into like a standard format.
Yeah,
which is great.
I think it's the understanding or the kind of point of view that you don't need everything to be like the essays at university, to be research. Everything has to have a rationale for why you're saying the certain thing that's on that pen if it's factual information. But you don't need to write it as if like this, Johnson 2004 said that. When I got out of that mind frame and got into the mind frame of like either telling a story or, talking about my own experiences or like, giving some type of context to the situation, it became a lot easier. And I think the word is liberating. I can now put my thoughts into that article and my opinion of that topic, and then, being able to cultivate it into a decent story and a decent way of telling about that factual information.
Yeah, I think you asked me on the podcast we did the 21 questions, and you said like, what advice would you give to writers? And I think one of the things I said was just practice. And I think you're reaping the benefits of practice, and then in combination with storytelling, which is essentially what it's all about, right? And I remember when I came out of university, that I carried on writing articles like I was at university. I was making them out to be like journal pieces where, like you said, you have to reference every single thing. You write in massive block paragraphs. And that style of writing is great in an academic sense, but for the average person and for us reading it on a day-to-day basis, it's boring, right? And people would like to read things that are easy digestible, and writing in an academic style for most things is probably the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, it's a measuring competition. If you're writing like that, you're obviously trying to measure yourself up against the university standards or the lecturers or the people that are ahead in that field. But if your audience are not those lecturers and not those individuals that are research, like solely driven by the research, and you've got general population who actually don't care that much about the ins and the outs, they just want to know what works effectively. Then you've got to write in a different manner. That's for sure.
Yeah. So these last few weeks, when you've started this new nomadic lifestyle of yours, you created this structure in your day, and you've done it in, you've started forming new habits, and creating new routines, new systems into your life that you didn't have before because of this new kind of profound freedom that you've got. Let's talk about habit formation, because it's January and it's still a time where people who are trying to transform, whether it's fat loss or muscle building, they're trying to create new habits. So while you're in a phase of building new habits, talk us through what you're doing to make sure that these habits not only kind of stick, but they're there for the long run, and they're there for something which is transferable to different environments that you're going into, which is essentially what you're doing.
Yeah. I think the first one is always like if you're formulating something new, you are a ranked beginner at that certain thing. So having as much structure as you physically can with that new habit will allow you to then execute it over a short term. It's going to be something new. It's going to be something different than your usual routine. So having the easiest possible route to achieve it is probably your number one. It's like always get a win. Whatever it is, tick the box and start small. Like for me, that is, making sure that when I wake up at 6, it's in my diary to do it. My alarm goes off. I do a set sequence. I go to the toilet. I do the bathroom stuff. I come out. I grab my laptop. I go and find some seating that I've already kind of arranged downstairs at a hotel or a hostel, and then that's when it starts. And I know the topic that I'm going to talk about, but that's all I know. I've just left it at that. My goal is to get downstairs and open my laptop. My goal isn't to write an article or write 1,500 words. My goal or my habit that I want to kind of achieve is get out of bed at 6 and go downstairs and open my laptop. And anyone can do that. It's kind of you achieve a win, and then from there you go forward. So in comparison, that would be like, if you're struggling to go to the gym or you're struggling to do batch cooking, the goal wouldn't be to do 7 days worth of batch cooking. The goal for you, if it's a new habit, would be to buy all the ingredients. And then from that kind of precursor, you automatically will cook at some point. You may not batch cook for 7 days. You may not batch cook. You might actually just cook on a day-to-day basis. But by buying the ingredients or being a precursor, you then set yourself up for the best position possible. It's the same as exercises. That you finish work, you work in a 9 to 5. And the defining moment between you going to the gym when you get home from work is either putting on your running shoes or your gym kit, or not putting on your gym kit and going and sitting by the TV. So if you're coming home and want to formulate that habit, your goal is to, when you get home from work, put on your gym clothes. And then what will happen after that is the formation of, you go into the gym because you've got your clothes on now, you might as well go. And that's what I think. If you want to create a new habit, you have to make an easy win, and you have to find the precursor to your current goal.
Yeah, and another one could be, for example, if you need to do cardio in the morning and you just can't face it, having your trainers by your bedside. So as soon as you get up, you put the trainers on. Now you're going to go outside. That'd be another example. Or
the habit stacking as well.
Yeah, and then exactly that. So I was going to come on to that. And that once you've set one habit, then you build another one on top of that, then another one on top of that, and you just stack them on top of each other till they become automatic. So now you're still probably in the early phases. It's like 14 to 16 days in, but it's in say, if you continue this now for 14 more days or maybe 21 more days, then it should start becoming more automatic, so that you wake up and the first thing you think about is, right, let me open that laptop up. It doesn't become second nature where, you procrastinate or you start thinking, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? And this comes back to also just limiting the decisions that take you from the moment of waking up to the opening of the laptop. So you have this set routine that you just follow every day, and you're also almost on autopilot, aren't you? There's no thinking involved. It's like you wake up, you walk to the bathroom, you brush your teeth, you come out, you get changed, you go down. It's all automatic, and the more you can do that, the easier things become.
Yeah. Sure. I think, and if you're choosing a habit, or you want to get something that is particularly adverse to your current mindset, let's say, I need to do cardio, really don't like cardio, I'd rather spend my time watching Netflix on TV, or I'd rather, do other things with my time. A good way to kind of habit stack and kind of be more efficient is combine one thing that you really like with one thing that you don't like. And over time, that thing will become more of a process within your day, and actually then therefore you're getting a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. So going to the gym and watching Netflix on the bike is actually not a bad thing if that's a struggle for you. Or doing two tasks at the same time. Like I know Elliot, who I used to work with at Embody, he used to do Duolingo on the treadmill when he was post-operation, because he wanted to stack the two things together, where he had to do the cardio, but he wanted to learn the language at the same time. So like doing one thing that you really like with one thing that you don't like, it is another way to do it as well.
Yeah, it just makes it less barrier to access, I guess.
Yeah.
And then how would you take once you've formed these habits, how do you create them into long-term systems and routines that you can carry in different environments? Or is that a byproduct of creating habits?
Yeah, I think
because you can easily fall out of a habit is another thing I found. How do you make sure that the habit sustains?
I think first of all, if it's of importance to you, enough of an importance, or it's has enough why to it, then it should really never fall out of favor. But obviously there are things in the middle of the day, like it's all well and good to get up and then do something like I'm doing, but let's say if your habit or the thing that you want to do is in the midst of work, or after you've had to do lots of decisions, or you've got enough reasons not to do it, that's when it's the hard part. I think that's when it comes down to making non-negotiables, to making strategy within your day, adding things together to make sure that you are doing those certain things. And it really comes down to the old structure, non-negotiables, and doing that over a period of time to where it's just an accepted part of your day.
So when if you're trying to create non-negotiables in the evening and it's not a habit, how do you force yourself to make this a non-negotiable? Because it's all well and saying this is going to be a non-negotiable for me, but I know in myself that if there's no like accountability here, it's going to be really difficult, right? So you can say, there's 3 levels to accountability. You got the first one, which is self-accountability, where you're going to say to yourself, you're going to create this non-negotiable, and I'm going to do my cardio every time I wake up. Then you got the second level, which is coach accountability, and this would be, I'm gonna, if I've got a coach, for example, where I tell my coach, okay, I'm going to be doing cardio every morning, because it's going to help me towards my fat loss goal. But what I found that really helps is if you can create like peer accountability and creating as much, accountability in the people around you. So, for example, if I was to tell my coach, okay, I want to do cardio in the morning in order to instigate fat loss, then that's great. I've also told myself to make it non-negotiable. That's great. But if I also tell everyone in the household, and I tell you, for example, and I tell Ben and Kunal and Indy and everyone around me, then suddenly I've got a really high level of accountability that I don't want to let anyone down. And I think for people that are struggling to form habits and non-negotiables in the evening or in the midst of a workday where, the decision-making capability is wiped out and they're much more prone to, lapsing, then I think if they're telling people around you and creating a lot of social support and peer accountability, it's really going to help. And I heard this 3 steps to accountability recently I think it was on a podcast or on a video on YouTube. I can't remember where, but I heard it and it really resonated because I realized how important that social support is for you, and it probably applies more so when you're trying to form habits in the midst of low decision making ability.
Yeah, I mean, we had that talk yesterday, didn't we, about the social and peer issues and the conflicts that may get with that old social stigmas and the issues with your inner circle and dieting and having those people around you being in support, and when they are the people that are asking you and tearing you down, how hard it is to kind of get into that mindset of making non-negotiables and actually doing the things that contribute towards your goal. With the peer accountability, it's very important to when you're trying to tell them, you always have to give them the reason why. In January, there'll be a lot of people that say, oh, why are you eating the chicken salad? Or, why have you brought your own lunch in or whatever? They'll be like, oh, well, I just want to lose a bit of weight. And because you don't tell them the reason why it's important to you, then of course they've got a reason to go, oh, well, you don't need to do that. You look absolutely fine. Or like, why are you eating that? That's not vegan, or that's not vegetarian, or that's not healthy by the body coach. But if you say to them, look, I'm doing this why, I've got this team behind me, I've got these steps that I'm going to be taking, and here's how I'd like you to kind of help. Yeah. I mean, I rarely find, if people actually say that to their friends and family and actually ask for support, will they ever go, oh, no, not from me, you won't.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's almost like the caveat to creating peer accountability is that when you do that, you have to make them understand why it's important to you. And it's not a case of just, I want to lose a couple of pounds and I want to drop down to a size 10 or whatever it is. It needs to be, okay, I want to have more energy for my kids, or I want to be more productive at work. And I think, it's holding me back right now. Or, I want to have more confidence when I go on dates, or, it could be anything, but whatever it is personal to you and why you're changing, because most people don't change because they want to drop a couple pounds. Right? That's not strong enough to keep you accountable to yourself and everyone around you, or strong enough or why to form habits. It's always much more than just the physical.
The physical just starts the process, and then from there you then take it way further than that. With the structures, with the habits and behaviors that you formulate over this physical time, you move into whether it's confidence, whether it is better formation of your day. Like if you're a business person out there, or you're someone that has drive to go further in life, or make more money, or climb up the ladder of where you are, at some point in your time, you will have to make non-negotiables. You will have to apply structure to your day. You will have to apply efficiency to your day. You will have to exercise some level of restraint and rigidity, and then learn how to deal with it, and learn how to deal with the ordering of your day based on your priorities. And when you take that from the physical and you use the body transformation, or you use a change in habits and behaviors to instigate that, you not only change your physical being, but then your ability to make more money, your ability to take less crap, your ability to put your business first. Like if you could take that time, you get your physical transformation, and let's say you're allotting 3 to 4 hours a week extra on top, whether it is, doing extra steps, more than 10,000, getting the extra cardio in. If you keep that time and you take it away from steps and put it into your business, then only then, like if you then maintain your body because you've made this physical transformation, you then hold a maintenance phase, you hold a consolidation phase, and then you go into a period of where you remove that, and then you add business time or venture time or family time, or extra time with the missus because you've been you haven't had that much time, you really want to solidify the relationship or make more money time. And that's what it's about. It's about strategies of utilizing your time more efficiently and your priority list being hit on a day-to-day basis. I don't know where that comes from. I think
that's perfect, and it's exactly true in that the habits and structures you create from the physical transformation, once you achieve your initial goal of a fat loss, which we typically call phase 1, then you can use those systems and structures to then the extra time that you gain from moving to that consolidation phase, you can use the system and structures in other areas of your life that you've just mentioned. So let's talk about phase 1 more of this fat loss period. And one period that's probably the most difficult, despite being the most motivating, is the beginning bit. And we talked about habit formation and how we can accelerate this habit formation process, especially with nutrition. And one kind of tool that we use a lot with our clients is something you've coined, cleaning the palate. So do you want to explain further what you mean by this and why it's so effective?
So the cleansing of the palate is such a funny term, but it's effectively when you're coming to someone for help in a certain area of your life because you've either lost control of that area, you want more education, or you want more accountability, and you may have preconceived ideas of what is necessary or what is needed in that said goal. So we do a whole back to basics article series on where we talk about what the actual principles of fat loss are, and it's like effectively cleansing the slate. We don't want the preconceived ideas of, you don't want the preconceived ideas of what it takes to lose fat when they're not actually the principles. So what we do is we help you regain control of your current structure, current habits, current food choices by giving you something fairly rigid. Now, we understand that fairly rigid dieting and fairly rigid meal plans aren't long-term sustainable functions of life, because life happens, social events, everyone wants variety, everyone wants freedom. But for freedom, you need structure, and you need that that level of foundations to be built upon on top of. So the rigid set meal plan will be done for a small period of time to just cleanse the slate, wipe everything clean, regain control, and then get yourself into the habits of either meal preparation, structuring your day around making non-negotiables, or making more better choices towards exercise, steps, and lifestyle. And then from there you can kind of really go onwards and structure, and then add the freedom of phase 2, and then obviously an education element as well, which is ongoing throughout the whole period, which leads to longer sustainable results if you have more education in the area.
Yeah, and with the education, a lot of that is very important when it comes to building it more into a lifestyle solution. Where you're going out with social events and still being able to navigate around everything and get results. And one of the methods that we use that's often sometimes controversial is the art of the buffer. And, for a general population person, someone who's not a fitness freak, I think, buffering is important because it can be difficult to manage portion control when you're out in the early stages, when those habits aren't formed. So by creating a buffer, it allows you to continue living life as normal, but still making progress to your goals. So I'd like you to talk about the art of the buffer, what to do, what not to do, why it's so important for the average person, and why it allows you to continue making progress towards your goals.
Yeah, I think the first point to note is that the art of the buffer is not a normal person, but a person who is, let's say, not having issues with maintaining their weight. This is what they call eating less on one part of the day because they've had a lot on another part of the day, or they call it intuitive eating, is where these people aren't that hungry, and what all we're doing is coining what they're doing or what these successful people that maintain their body weight do, and we're just teaching you how to do that through thought, consciousness, and then it moves into the subconscious. These guys who maintain their weight really easily, or the guys that just eat what they want but never really gain fat, you will notice that they're the people that will eat small at one meal and then eat bigger at another meal, or they'll have smaller portions but then they'll feel full and then they won't overeat. And all we're doing is teaching you how not to overeat when trying to lose weight. Effectively, the art of the buffer is just teaching you something that other people have as a subconscious process, but unfortunately, myself included, we're not very effective at this.
So yeah, I was actually having a conversation with a client about this, because I was saying to her that how before Thailand, which was at the end of November, I went to Thailand for 3 weeks and I ate what I wanted, in inverted commas, right? And then I went away, and then we had Christmas obviously for 2 weeks, where again I didn't put restrictions on myself. And then I was recently in Paris at the start of the year, where again, no restrictions. But I'm now at the point where I can intuitively eat less at other meals, so I can enjoy other meals when I want to. And it's not, for now, I don't call it buffering for myself now. I just call it, doing it intuitively. But like you said, there's a process to get to that point of intuition. And I think it's a very important process of education to go through that many people skip past. And that's why people go through rebounds and why they yo-yo, because they never learn how to go from they go from dieting on a strict plan to making it a lifestyle where it's done intuitively. And the buffer, I think, is a good middle ground there to teach you, teach your body and teach your subconscious how to approach these.
Yeah, I think the buffer is the bridge between being on a diet and off a diet. Like you have people, like two type of people. You got process-driven people and goal-driven people. And when the goal-driven people, they're on it. They're strict. They're absolutely steaming towards the goal at a great rate. However, when they're off, they gain 20 kilos, and they don't do anything. They don't do training because they are off, and they have either failed at the diet or they've ate a bad food, and therefore their thought process says that they've failed, and therefore the old coin of fuck it happens. And for those type of people, creating a buffer and making them educate them alongside. So let's say you can create a buffer and you can eat that kind of relatively, let's say, inverted commas, bad meal in the evening and still get fat loss. Once you've kind of liberated yourself from the ideas that the food choices you make will gain fat rather than the calories, and the fact is that you don't have to eat a certain number of meals in the day, it will liberate you to then take a lifestyle solution. And that's what it is. How many people now who get the buffer in our team, in our squad of clients, that every week I don't care if they've got social dinners, because they are absolutely 100% control over that strategy in place. We were speaking about Niraj, who's lost loads and loads of weight, and I'm sure he'll probably be on the podcast at some point. And he goes, oh yeah, by the way, for the last 6 weeks, I've had two nights a week. I've been out over Christmas. Before that, I've had birthdays. I've been to Ireland. I've been to Copenhagen, and I'm still down 20 kilos or whatever. And and he's took the strategy and run with it. And now he knows that, when he's go out for lunch, we've gone through the whole of what is best on a menu or what to look at for on a menu. But it's not about the menu. It's like, stay away from probably pizza and chips and burger and chips, because that's going to blow your calories. But everything else as a main meal will probably sit in your calories if the rest of your day is buffered for. And that's really it. I think it is the bridging the gap between people that a diet for a small period of time or they lifestyle it.
Yeah, I think you should. I think we should write an article on this as well, called "Bridging the Gap." The art of the buffer. But no, it's an important point, and essentially it's just sensible eating. It's just being sensible and not not just binging and not blowing your diet all the time. Just being sensible. And I mean, I had a client of mine, Adam Goff, who went away a week after his photo shoot for 7 weeks. And I thought, this is a disaster waiting to happen, right? Right after your photo shoot is the most vulnerable period of time. And he checked in this Monday, having just come back from 7 weeks of being in Thailand, Australia, Japan, and a couple other places. And he's only put on 1 pound. And that's from photo shoot weight. 1 pound up. So he's still shredded. I'm going to post a picture tomorrow on social media. So it would have already come out by the time we release this. But the only reason is because, firstly, he continued to take pictures of himself. He continued to weigh himself where he could. And he continued to check in with me. And most importantly, he was just sensible in that he still enjoyed every cuisine he went to, every country he went to. He had all the local cuisines. He enjoyed himself. He partied over Christmas and New Year's. But he was just sensible. So if he had a big meal, the next day he'd probably eat a bit less during the day. And then, it all kind of balanced itself out. And he'd built those habits and structures during the initial 3 to 4 months we were working together, that the 7 weeks he was away, those habits had already formed the place so that they were transferable in each country they went to. It'd become a lifestyle so that he didn't need to blow it, where, in a lot of situations where you go so hard and you forget about building systems and habits, that you go away for 7 weeks, you're going to end up in worse shape than you started at.
Yeah,
we've all done that, right? We've all done that. And it's a learning process you have to go through, but because we've done it so many times, we're so on it with people to make sure it doesn't happen to them. And I think it's paying off and it's transferring over to them.
Yeah, I think that, because if I'm not wrong, he's definitely a process-driven person, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, and he does the things that we're talking about now in his own life, in his own business. Whereas I think, that bridging of the gap, but from going from a goal-orientated person to moving towards a process-orientated person will kind of lead the long term and make that bridge and that crossing over to a long-term solution as opposed to a short-term gain will be the winning for most. Obviously, it's all well and good to have goals, but the extra little education around moving from goal to process driven is a massive important factor in this. And because the interesting thing is that with goal orientated people, they're so affected by that goal and so, let's say, emotionally charged. It's basically people that have quite a high emotion to do that. And that they will be affected in their emotional state by that goal, whereas the process-driven people are more than likely have less emotion towards the end goal and the more emotion and more thought process to the day-to-day, which they truly understand is that if they tick their boxes on a day-to-day basis, most of all their goals will come true at some point if it's got a tangible ending and a start point.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, it's just time. And doing the tick boxing every single day.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is he runs his own mastermind of a group of property entrepreneurs, and what they focus on is purely that. Every week they have a top 10 a top 10 whiteboard of processes everyone needs to do each week, and it's all their unique top 10. So everyone's got their unique top 10, whether it's spend time with this, do make sure you do this, walk 10,000 steps a day. And some of this is included, the physical is in there. But it's all process driven. And because of that, they exceed in their businesses and in their work, because it's not through okay, I'm going to make X amount, or I'm going to get this amount of work from this many people. It's okay, I'm going to do a good job. And this can apply very much so in creating a physical transformation. I'm going to get my steps done. I'm going to batch cook every week. I'm going to wake up early and do my cardio. I'm going to go to the gym at 12 o'clock every day. All these things will add up, create small wins, generate momentum, and over time the result will come.
Yeah, because the funny thing is, out of those 10 things, if everyone did the top 10 things, and only 3 of them or 2 of them were fitness related, you would still make significant change towards your physique. You could do one thing. You hear stories where people just go, oh, I'm going to drink 3 more litres of water a day, and then they lose 10 kilos because of what that effect that water has on their rest of their day. It's a vehicle to making more change. And if you start off with that top 10, feel free to use that, guys, now and put your top 10, and then just put one of your fitness related things in there that will contribute on a day-to-day basis. The easiest one is 10,000 steps. You get that and start that as a small win out of your 10. Then week number 2, you add another one, and you progressive overload on your top 10, and then by the time you've done a few weeks or by the time you've got more comfortable with those goals or those processes, you can then up the ante a bit towards a faster transformation or a faster change, because you can add more onto your plate.
And when I spoke at their mastermind recently to talk about how the physical can improve the mental and improve your business and improve your productivity work. And I did exactly that. And I just said to them, there's 2 things I want you to focus on in the next month. And all it is walk 8,000 steps a day, made it even easier than 10, 8,000 steps a day, and drink 3 liters of water. I didn't even mention nutrition. I just mentioned those 2 habits. And, those 2 things are going to make a huge difference in anyone that's trying to get into shape and then stay in shape in the long run.
Yeah. This, like we talk about the precursors to habits, those things like that, you apply such a small level of process, and then it just amplifies the result.
Yeah, and that's why we talk about a triphasic approach to what we do. In that, we start with building these precursors, building these habits, and then it's about using those habits to accelerate your progress and drive yourself hard to your first goal, which in most cases is going to be fat loss as your first goal. And then when you get there, you move into the next phase of consolidation, reverse dieting, and then essentially ultimately building a lifestyle solution.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. And then when you get to that lifestyle solution, it really is at that point taking those processes that you've got and then reverse engineering the level of freedom that you'd like to have with your top 10 or with your processes that you have on a day-to-day basis, and then creating that lifestyle solution, creating that life you want to lead through socializing, through work, through all those things. They all come based on their processes, based on the reverse engineering of the way you want to live life.
Exactly. And on that note, we'll finish it there. But I think in the future, this year especially, we're going to be focusing a lot more on building lifestyle habits, and not only getting you into the shape of your life, but being able to maintain it, because that's essentially what it's all about. And so we're going to be coming on as a team and talking about this a lot more to help educate you all on how to do so, because I genuinely believe it to be arguably one of the best parts of what we do, but also probably the hardest part as well.
Yeah, so a lot of people will be out there saying that habits and behaviors are the OG in this type of situation, but no one tells you how. Just go and do meditation. Just go and do journaling. Just go and do 10,000 steps. Just go and train. But actually, it's a way deeper level than that. There's way more precursors. There's way more things that you have to you can action to make them reality. Not just someone tells you to do 10,000 steps and you just go and do it. That's not how this life works. We need a how-to guide and how to action it. I think that's the most important thing.
And the other thing is, a lot of these morning routines and all these wacky things we talk about, it all seems to happen in some idealistic world where there's no distraction, there's no disruption, there's nothing else going on in life, right? And we know, life's always throwing itself challenges, and for a lot of our clients, for example, they're not only doing what we're doing, which is focusing on our fitness, but work and all that, but they also got kids, and we haven't got kids, for example, but they've got kids, so they've got other things to factor in, right? And this is what we sometimes it feels like we know because of the amount of people we work with who have kids, but there's other things to factor, and it's why precursors are so important, because there's always so many distractions and interruptions that can potentially throw you off track. Yeah.
The one example of that before we finish is the journaling. If the optimal, because you're always going to chase optimal, because then you're probably going to get the desired results at a faster rate, but the optimal is sitting down in peace and quiet for 30 minutes and writing. In reality, you're up at 6 or 5:30 with the kids screaming their heads off, and at that point, if you can get them to sleep and you've got 5 minutes before 7 o'clock where you have to get ready and you've got your phone on you, journal on your phone. Like 5 minutes, set something aside. Don't even, just no alternatives to the strategy that you want to put in place. It's all about having alternatives rather than, than going for broke or not doing it because it's not the optimal. If there's so many other solutions, journal on your phone, journal on your laptop, journal on a piece of paper when you get to work, first 5 minutes when you're having a coffee, and that 5 minutes versus 0 is 50% or even 100% better than what you're currently doing.
And also that applies to other things as well. So a good example for me is, I in an ideal world, I'd like to write for 3 to 4 hours every morning, but 3 to 4 hours is a big chunk of time to think that you're going to get every day without disruption. So I'd say as long as I can get 45 to an hour done, I'm happy. And that's enough writing to be done. But I could even break it down further and say if I get 30 minutes of writing, it's better than nothing. And that's enough if you get 30 minutes of really productive, focused work, you can get a lot done. And you've said yourself, you only work in 30-minute chunks. And I know you're very productive in what you do. You can get a lot done in 30 minutes. And that can apply with training. If you've only got 30 minutes to train, it's better to go in and get 30 minutes of really intense work done than do nothing, because you can still get a really hard workout done in 30 minutes.
Something is better than nothing every single time.
Perfect. Is there anything you'd like to finish on?
Nope. Nothing. We're all good.
If you enjoyed today's episode with the Hitman and myself, please share it with your family and friends and leave us a positive review. For more information, please visit www.rntfitness.com. For Instagram, please follow us on @RNT_fitness. Thanks for listening.